Rotating properly during the backswing is one of the biggest issues I see players have. A lot of players will think they're rotating, but they will get in here and they will start to slide their hips back and lean forward with the spine, never actually rotating the hips or rotating the shoulders. So what we're going to do in this video is we are going to go over why that is such an issue and go over a couple of drills here that are going to help you tie in the hip rotation and the shoulder rotation to not only help you rotate more, but also get the tilts and the angles of the body correct. So like I mentioned, one of the big issues here is players will typically slide the hips back away from the target. And as they do that, the head is usually going to try to keep itself fairly centered. It's very rare that you see players just completely slide everything back and away. Usually it's going to be the hips will start to shift out from underneath of them away from the target. So to try to keep that head level or centered, the spine is going to start to tilt a little bit more forward. So this is going to present three big issues. So one is going to be hand depth. Hand depth is essentially how far we are getting these hands back behind us at the top of the backswing. And this can help with shallowing. If we can get these hands further behind us, the weight of the club gets further behind, that can help the club start to drop a little more naturally. So if we aren't rotating, that club is going to have a hard time getting back there. So if we get here and we're bringing this club back and we start to tilt and slide, we're going to have a lot of lift to these arms. Hands are going to stay very far in front of us. So now as we work down, typically that club is going to work a little bit more over the top. So it can cause a more over the top swing pattern. The next part is going to be a lack of power. Having a lot more shifting and sliding going on is going to be a very weak move compared to loading properly and rotating. And third, this kind of plays a role into the lack of power, but it's going to be poor weight shift. I see a lot of players that have this tilt start to slide their weight onto the outside border of their back foot. So that weight will kind of get out from the inside of the foot here, get onto the outside part of the foot. Now they have nothing to push against to get them to the front side, and that spine is leaned forward. So most of the time what players do is because they can't rotate, they start to slide the hips forward. They're going to try to get their upper body back behind the ball, so they end up leaning back behind it. This gets a lot of the weight staying back, and this is where I'll see a lot of players really start to stay flat-footed through the shot and never really get that weight fully to that front side and to get that nice balanced finish, getting that momentum moving a little bit more forward. So a lot of weight shift getting forward has to do with the way that we load it during the backswing. So we're going to go over two drills. So the first one here is the one I would start with because this is going to help you tie in the shoulders with this a little bit better. So if we get set up, I want you to take an alignment stick or a club and put it right in the center of the stance. And this is always going to be in relation to the body. It doesn't matter if we are hitting a pitching wedge or a driver, it's always going to be in relation to the pelvis here. So ball position doesn't matter. Stick's always going to be centered. Our goal here is we want to get rid of the sliding of the hips and the leaning of the spine. So what I would do is I would start with a club across your chest, and we are going to try to feel like we are getting our front shoulder to the back side of the stick, or almost feeling like we're getting the front shoulder over this back foot. And we're going to try to feel like we're getting our back glute or back butt cheek to fall a little bit more forward to get to the front side of the stick. So when we do this, we are not trying to slide. You can see back glute is getting further away, shoulder is leaning forward. We are trying to get back glute to fall a little bit more forward as we get that lead shoulder a little bit more back. So this does not, yes, this is going to help you rotate more, but this is not saying you have to have a massive turn to accomplish this. I can rotate quite a bit, but I can keep the same amount of rotation, and now I add slide, and I'm not in a very good spot. I didn't rotate any less to get into this position. It's all strictly the amount of tilts of the pelvis and the spine. So that is where this drill can help you rotate, but also make sure that you are loading properly. So when you do this, you want to make sure that weight is loading up to the inside border of this back foot, feeling right glute or trail glute fall a little bit more forward as lead shoulder gets a little bit more back and behind. One other way you can think of this is if we look at this back view and I have my tailbone marked, you can try to feel like as you turn, you are getting that tailbone to fall to the front side of the stick as that lead shoulder gets to the back side. So just a different way you can think about it. The thing I don't want to see here is I don't want to see you start to collapse down. I don't want you to turn and really kick these hips forward and let your head drop. We are not trying to get into this move. We're trying to stay nice and tall, stay nice and centered as we sort of coil upwards, feeling that glute work around as that shoulder works around. So another one you can do is you can grab a golf bag, preferably one from Stitch, and you can get this set up right off your back foot. You can get set here. You'll have a little bit of space between your hip and the back edge of this golf bag. And your goal is going to be as you turn, you don't want to slide and bump your hip back into this. You want to feel a little bit more of that back hip working away from the bag, creating just a little bit more space. So now as we do this, as we start to create a little bit more space, That's going to get this hip starting to fall a little bit more forward. We're going to rotate a little bit more. So what that's going to do is now allow our hands to work more behind us. There's that hand up. As we rotate more, that's going to build a little bit more of a powerful swing. And now as we start to load our weight a little bit more onto the inside of this foot, our hips are already starting to work a little bit more forward. This is going to make it much easier to rotate and get to that front side. So if you really struggle with any of those 3 issues and notice that you really get this slide pattern going, give those 2 drills a try, starting with this alignment stick one.